The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I lay in my hospital bed, staring at the message on my phone. Sorry, sis. Money's tight, and we can't help with the medical bills. You should have been more careful driving in the rain. Mom and Dad agree. You are on your own with this one. My sister Olivia, who lived in our parents' fully paid guest house and drove a Mercedes they'd gifted her for Christmas, was telling me I was on my own. The same sister whose college tuition I'd helped pay when our parents' investments took a hit in 2008. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the constant beeping of monitors and the throbbing pain in my legs. The doctors said I was lucky. The truck that hit me could have killed me. Instead, I was looking at months of rehabilitation and medical bills that would drain every penny I'd saved. Miss Porter? A nurse poked her head in. Your physical therapy session starts in 10 minutes. Do you have someone coming to help you get there? I shook my head, fighting back tears. My family lived less than 20 minutes away, but they hadn't visited once in the 2 weeks since the accident. The nurse's face softened with sympathy. Don't worry, honey. I'll help you. As she helped me into the wheelchair, I thought about the last conversation I'd had with my parents. It was at Olivia's 32nd birthday party, held at their sprawling Victorian house that had been in our family for generations. They'd been bragging about Olivia's new job at a prestigious law firm, a position she'd gotten through Dad's golf club connections. Catherine, Mom had said, sipping her champagne, when are you going to get a real career? This financial consulting business of yours. It's not very stable, is it? If only they knew that my unstable consulting business had helped me build a substantial investment portfolio. I'd kept my success quiet, remembering how they'd ridiculed my decision to strike out on my own, rather than join Dad's firm. The physical therapy session was grueling. Every movement sent shots of pain through my damaged legs, but I gritted my teeth and pushed through. The therapist, Mike, was encouraging but realistic. You're doing great, Catherine, but recovery will take time. And it's important to have a support system. I have enough savings. I cut him off. I'll hire whatever help I need. Back in my room, I opened my laptop, determined to at least review some client files. A news alert caught my eye. Morton Financial, my parents' primary investment firm, was facing a liquidity crisis. Their stock had plummeted 60% in a week. I dug deeper, my analyst instincts kicking in. Morton had made risky bets on the real estate market, leveraging their clients' portfolios to buy up distressed properties. Now those investments were imploding. My phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. Only did you see the news about Morton? Mom and Dad are freaking out. They might have to sell the house. I set the phone down without responding. The Victorian house had been our grandfather's pride and joy. He'd built the family's wealth from nothing, but always warned us about the dangers of entitlement. Money shouldn't change who you are, he used to say. It just reveals it. How right he'd been. Another message popped up, this time from my best friend and fellow analyst. David, check your email. Found something interesting about Morton's debt structure. I opened his email and started reading. My eyes widened as I absorbed the implications. Morton's mortgage division had been bundling their loans and selling them to private equity firms at a discount. Among their portfolio was my family's house, the mortgage they'd taken out to fund Olivia's law school, and their lavish lifestyle. A plan began forming in my mind. I might be stuck in this hospital bed, but my brain worked just fine, and I knew exactly how to use that Morton financial crisis to my advantage. David, I typed, remember that investment fund we discussed starting. I think it's time. and I know exactly what assets we should acquire first. I looked out my hospital window at the setting sun, a grim smile playing on my lips. My family thought I was helpless, a burden they could discard. They had no idea that while I lay here, allegedly broken and abandoned, I was about to become their worst nightmare. My fingers moved swiftly over the keyboard as I outlined my strategy to David. Morton would be desperate to offload their toxic assets. With the right structure and timing, we could acquire their entire mortgage portfolio for pennies on the dollar, including the mortgage on my family's precious Victorian. A nurse came in to check my vitals. "Your blood pressure's a bit high," she noted with concern. "Try to rest." "I will," I assured her. "I just need to finish something important." On my screen, David's reply appeared. "You're sure about this? It's aggressive." I thought about my sister's dismissive text, my parents' absence, the cold calculation with which they'd abandoned me in my hour of need. "I'm sure," I typed back. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about taking control. I closed my laptop and leaned back against the hospital pillows, finally feeling something other than pain and betrayal. I felt powerful. The next morning, I had David bring me every document he could find on Morton Financial's assets. Between physical therapy sessions and doctor's visits, I pored over financial statements, loan documents, and market analyses. Morton's desperation was evident in the numbers. They needed to raise capital fast, and they were willing to sell their loan portfolios at steep discounts to do it. I called in every favor, contacted every industry connection I'd made over the years. My hospital room became my war room, with David acting as my eyes and ears in the financial world. Morton starting to approach potential buyers. He reported during one of his daily visits. "They're trying to keep it quiet, but word's getting out." I nodded, scrolling through the latest projections on my laptop. "Have our LLC ready. Everything needs to be in place when they start accepting bids." "Catherine," David hesitated, "your family, they still haven't visited?" "No," I said shortly, "and soon they'll wish they had." My phone lit up with another text from Olivia. "Dad's talking about declaring bankruptcy. This is a nightmare." I left it unanswered, just like all her previous messages. Instead, I focused on the document David had brought me, a preliminary term sheet for Morton's distressed asset sale. The pieces were falling into place. While my family worried about losing their precious house, I was preparing to become their anonymous creditor. Sometimes recovery takes more than just physical healing. Sometimes it requires rebuilding yourself into someone stronger, someone who can never be abandoned or betrayed again. And as I lay in that hospital bed, surrounded by financial documents and powered by determination, I was doing exactly that. 2 months after the accident, I sat in my wheelchair in a sleek downtown office, watching as David finalized our bid for Morton Financial's distressed assets. My legs were healing, but my heart had hardened into something unbreakable. "Phoenix Capital Management," I murmured, reading the name on our newly registered investment firm's documents. Rising from the ashes, David looked up from his computer. "Final offers ready. $85 million for their entire mortgage portfolio. About 30 cents on the dollar." I nodded, remembering the conversation I'd overheard between 2 nurses last week. They'd been discussing my sister Olivia's appearance on local news, speaking as a concerned citizen about Morton Financial's collapse. She'd been wearing the diamond necklace our parents gave her for passing the bar exam. The same week they told me they couldn't help with my student loans. "Send it," I said. While we waited for Morton's response, I focused on my recovery. Physical therapy was still excruciating, but I channeled every stab of pain into determination. The doctors were amazed by my progress. "Whatever's driving you," Mike, my therapist, said during one particularly tough session, "it's working." If he only knew. The call from Morton came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. They accepted our bid with minimal negotiation. Desperation had made them eager. Within hours, Phoenix Capital Management became the proud owner of over 500 mortgages, including the one on my family's Victorian. I celebrated that night with a painkiller and a spreadsheet, meticulously reviewing each loan in our newly acquired portfolio. Most would be restructured or sold off, but some would receive special attention. The next morning, my phone exploded with messages. Morton had announced the sale of their mortgage division to an anonymous investment firm. My family was panicking. "Mom, they sold our mortgage. What if the new company raises our rates? Olivia, Dad's meeting with bankruptcy lawyers tomorrow. This is insane. Dad, Catherine, I know we haven't been there for you, but I need your financial expertise. Call me." I deleted them all without responding. David stopped by later with takeout and updates. "The transfer's complete. You now officially own your family's debt." I took a bite of lo mein, savoring both the taste and the moment. Had our management company send out the standard notification letters. And David, make sure my family's includes the new, adjusted terms. "You're really going to do it. They made their choice when they abandoned me," I said, my voice steady. "Now it's my turn to make mine." The next week, as I graduated from wheelchair to walker, my family received their letter from Phoenix Capital Management. Their mortgage rate was being adjusted to the maximum legally allowable amount, effectively doubling their monthly payment. The explosion was immediate. "Catherine," Olivia burst into my hospital room unannounced, waving the letter. "You have to help us figure this out. Mom's having anxiety attacks. Dad can't sleep." I looked at her designer purse, her perfect manicure, her face flushed with self-righteous concern. "I thought I wasn't your problem." She flinched. "That's not fair. We were dealing with our own crisis." While I was dealing with paralysis, I cut in. "Alone." "We're family," she protested. "Are we? Because family doesn't abandon each other in hospitals. Family doesn't ignore calls for help. Family shows up." Tears welled in her eyes. "What happened to you? You change." I smiled coldly. "No, I just stopped accepting less than I deserve." After she left, I had David send another letter to my parents. This one detailed Phoenix's new policy on late payments. There would be no grace period, no exceptions. That evening, my father called. "Catherine, please. We need your help understanding these financial terms. Maybe you could talk to the new company, explain our situation, like you explained my situation to them when I needed help." Silence. Then, "We made a mistake. We see that now." "No," I said quietly. "You're only seeing your own desperation. There's a difference." I hung up and opened my laptop, reviewing Phoenix's latest acquisitions. We'd expanded beyond Morton's portfolio, snapping up distressed debt across the city. Every deal made us stronger, more influential. The physical therapist had me practicing with a cane now. Each step was a victory, a reminder that I wasn't the helpless victim my family had abandoned. "Your recovery is remarkable," Dr. Chin said during my checkup. "Most patients take much longer to reach this stage." I didn't tell her that rage could be as powerful a motivator as physical therapy. The next day, David brought more news. My parents had tried to refinance their mortgage. approaching every bank in town. They were denied, he reported. Their credits shot from the Morton collapse. I nodded, unsurprised. And the house? They've listed it for sale. No takers yet. The Victorian had been in our family for 3 generations. My grandfather had bought it with his first real estate profits, turning it from a rundown property into a symbol of success. Now it would become a symbol of something else, the price of betrayal. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. We're having a family meeting tonight about the house. Please come. We need you. I stared at the message, remembering all the unanswered calls I'd made from my hospital bed. All the nights I'd laid awake, fighting pain and loneliness, while they lived their lives as if I didn't exist. Can't make it, I texted back. I have a meeting with my investment advisors. Let them wonder about that. Let them speculate about my finances while their own crumbled. Because soon they would learn just how expensive abandonment could be. That night, I sat in my apartment. I checked out of the hospital last week, looking at old family photos. Happy faces smiled back at me, preserving moments when I'd believed in unconditional love and family loyalty. You were right, Grandpa, I whispered to his image. Money doesn't change people, it reveals them. My laptop chimed with an email notification. David had sent the latest report on Phoenix Holdings. Our company had grown exponentially, attracting attention from major players in the finance world. But I wasn't interested in their attention. I was focused on one particular asset, a Victorian house that would soon teach my family the true meaning of consequences. 3 months after Phoenix Capital acquired my family's mortgage, I stood without assistance in my office on the 40th floor of downtown's most prestigious building, looking out at the city below. My cane rested against the desk, rarely needed now, except on particularly tiring days. My phone buzzed, a text from David. They're here. I smoothed my designer suit, a small smile playing on my lips. Send them up. Minutes later, my family walked into my office. Their shocked expressions as they took in the luxurious space, the stunning view, and my position behind the massive desk were almost worth every painful step of my recovery. Catherine? Mom's voice wavered. This is your office. Welcome to Phoenix Capital Management, I said calmly. Please, sit down. They sank into the leather chairs facing my desk. Dad looked older than I remembered, his face lined with worry. Olivia had lost her polished shine, her designer clothes replaced by something more modest. Mom's hands trembled as she clutched her purse. You work here? Olivia asked, her eyes darting around the office. As what? Not exactly. I pressed a button on my desk, and the wall behind me lit up with the Phoenix Capital logo. I own it. The silence that followed was deafening. That's impossible, Dad finally managed. Phoenix Capital is the company that bought our mortgage. They're worth hundreds of millions. The latest valuation puts us at just over $1 billion. I kept my voice professionally detached. Would you like to see the paperwork? Mom started crying. Not the elegant tears she shed at charity galas, but ugly, racking sobs. All this time, while we were drowning in debt. You were successful? I finished for her. Yes. No thanks to any of you. Why didn't you tell us? Olivia demanded. Why did you let us suffer? I leaned forward, my hands flat on the desk. Let you suffer? Like you let me suffer in that hospital, alone in pain, wondering why my family hadn't bothered to visit. We were dealing with our own crisis. Dad protested weakly. No, I cut him off. You are dealing with the consequences of your own choices. The risky investments, the lavish spending, the constant need to maintain appearances. And when I needed you most, you decided I wasn't worth the inconvenience. I pulled out a folder and laid 3 documents on the desk. Option 1. I foreclose on the house immediately. You have 30 days to vacate. Dad's face went pale. Option 2. You keep the house, but with the current terms. Double payments, no grace period, no exceptions. Mom's sobs grew louder. Option 3. I slid the final document forward. You sign the house over to me. I let you stay as tenants, with reasonable rent, but you acknowledge that you've lost any claim to our grandfather's legacy. You're enjoying this, Olivia accused, her voice bitter. You're punishing us. No, I said quietly. I'm teaching you what it feels like to be abandoned by family. I stood up, walking to the window without my cane. You know what got me through those weeks in the hospital. Not the pain medication, not the physical therapy. It was understanding that I had to become someone who could never be hurt like that again. Catherine, please, Mom whispered. We're sorry. We were wrong. Sorry because you mean it, or sorry because I hold your fate in my hands? No one answered. I turned back to face them. You have 24 hours to decide. Choose wisely. After they left, David came in. You okay? I nodded, watching their car pull away 40 stories below. Have the papers ready for whatever they choose. And if they go public, try to challenge your ownership? Then I released the documents showing how they mismanaged Grandpa's trust, how they used Olivia's law school as an excuse to mortgage a fully paid house, how they chose luxury over family. The next day, exactly 23 hours later, they returned with the signed option 3 documents. No one spoke as I reviewed the paperwork, my signature joining theirs in crisp black ink. The rental agreement will arrive tomorrow, I said, closing the folder. I suggest you read it carefully. Is this it? Olivia asked, her voice small. Are we just done as a family? I met her eyes, seeing for the first time how much the past months had changed her. The entitlement was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like understanding. Family, I said softly, isn't about shared DNA or shared property. It's about being there when it matters most. You taught me that. And there's no going back. Mom's question carried all the weight of her regret. I thought about the lonely hospital nights, the unanswered calls, the casual cruelty of their abandonment. Then I thought about Grandpa's words about money revealing true character. Going back? No, but forward. That depends on you. They left quietly, the victory I'd imagined feeling more hollow than I'd expected. But as I watched the sun set over the city, I knew I'd done what was necessary, not for revenge, but for justice. Not to hurt them, but to teach them. Money hadn't changed me. It had revealed me, revealed a strength I never knew I had. 1 year later, I stood in front of the Victorian, its restored grandeur a testament to the renovations I'd overseen. My family still lived there, paying their rent on time, learning slowly what it meant to live within their means. Olivia had quit her prestigious law firm to work at a nonprofit. Mom had started volunteering at the hospital where I'd recovered. Dad had finally retired, spending his days restoring classic cars instead of chasing status. They weren't perfect. Our relationship wasn't healed. But they were changing, and maybe that was enough. Miss Porter? My assistant's voice came through my phone. Your 3 o'clock is waiting. The investors are very interested in Phoenix expansion plans. On my way, I replied. taking one last look at the house. I didn't need the cane anymore. My legs had healed stronger than before, and so had I. As I drove away, I thought about how life's worst moments can become our greatest teachers. My family had abandoned me, but in doing so, they'd forced me to become unbreakable. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about becoming someone who can never be broken again. And I had succeeded at both.
The mahogany walls of my father's study seemed to close in as he signed the final document with a flourish. The scratching of his Mont Blanc pen against paper felt like nails on a chalkboard. There, he said, sliding the trust fund transfer papers across his desk. It's done. All $2 million will go to Jennifer instead. My name is Emma Chen, and at 28, I was being written off by my family for the last time. My sister Jennifer stood by the window, trying to hide her triumphant smile as she watched our father disinherit me. Emma, my mother sighed from her perch on the leather armchair, if you just gone to law school like your sister, if you just applied yourself. I did apply myself, I said quietly, watching my father's expression darken. Just not to what you wanted. Playing with computers in your apartment isn't applying yourself, he snapped, standing up to tower over his desk. Your sister made partner at Thompson & Mitchell at 32. Meanwhile, you're what? Coding websites for small businesses, living in that tiny apartment in the city. I could have told them then. Could have explained that what they saw as playing with computers was actually the development of an AI-driven financial technology platform that was about to revolutionize global markets. Could have mentioned the Series B funding meeting I had next week with venture capitalists who'd already valued my company at $300 million. But I didn't. I learned long ago that my family only saw what they wanted to see. You're right, I said instead, standing up. I'm clearly a disappointment. Jennifer deserves the money more than I do. Jennifer shifted uncomfortably by the window. For a moment, I caught a glimpse of the sister I used to know, the one who'd shared ice cream with me after bad days at school, who'd helped me with my math homework before our parents' expectations had driven a wedge between us. Emma, she started, but I held up a hand. It's fine, Jen, really. Congratulations on making partner. You've earned this. As I walked toward the door, my mother called after me. Will you at least join us for dinner? Your father's reserved a table at Le Bernardin to celebrate Jennifer's promotion. I turned back one last time, taking in the scene. My father's disapproving frown, my mother's practiced worry, Jennifer's mix of triumph and guilt. The study walls were lined with law degrees and bar association awards. Not a single photo of me or my accomplishments in sight. I have a meeting, I said, but enjoy dinner. The drive back to the city gave me time to think. The trust fund had never been about the money. I had more than enough of my own now. It was about what it represented. My parents had set up identical trusts for Jennifer and me when we were born, meant to be released on our 33rd birthdays. But a clause allowed them to redirect the funds if they felt one of us was failing to live up to the family standards. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya, my CTO. VCs moved the meeting up to tomorrow. You ready? I smiled, thinking about the presentation we prepared. More than ready, I typed back. Time to change the game. When I reached my apartment, the tiny space my father had sneered at, I kicked off my heels and walked straight to my home office. The wall-mounted screens displayed real-time data from our AI system's latest test run. Numbers scrolled past, each one representing another successful prediction, another validation of what we built. The playing with computers my father dismissed had led to the creation of ATGNA, adaptive trading heuristics and enhanced neural analytics, an AI system that could predict market movements with unprecedented accuracy, processing millions of data points to identify patterns human traders could never spot. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Jennifer. I'm sorry about Dad, her text read. You know how he gets. The trust fund doesn't matter anyway, right? You're doing fine with your computer stuff. I stared at the message, noting how even Jennifer's attempt at kindness came with a subtle dismissal of my work. Thanks, Jen, I replied. Enjoy dinner. Turning back to my screens, I pulled up the pitch deck for tomorrow's VC meeting. The numbers were staggering. Our beta testing had shown ATENA outperforming traditional trading algorithms by 312%. Major banks were already quietly reaching out, hoping to get early access to the technology. A soft chime announced an incoming video call from Maya. Her face appeared on one of the screens, her usual energy somewhat subdued. "Hey," she said, "how'd it go with the family?" "About as well as expected," I replied, running a hand through my hair. "Dad signed over my trust fund to Jennifer. They're celebrating at a Bernardin right now." Maya shook her head. "Their loss. You ready to show those DCs tomorrow what real success looks like?" I pulled up another screen showing ATENA's latest test results. "Actually, I've been thinking, what if we don't take the VC money?" Maya's eyes widened. "What?" "Emma, we're talking about a $50 million investment at a $300 million valuation. That's..." Small thinking, I interrupted. "Look at these numbers, Maya. We don't need VC funding. We could go public within a year, maintain complete control," and I smiled, thinking about my father's face at the IPO ceremony. "Really show them what playing with computers can accomplish." Maya was quiet for a moment, processing. Then a slow grin spread across her face. "You want to build an empire." "I want to build something that even my father can't dismiss," I corrected. "Something that changes the way the entire financial world operates." "Your father's a corporate lawyer," Maya pointed out. "Wouldn't he have heard about ATENA if it's as revolutionary as we think?" I laughed. "Maya, my father still uses a BlackBerry and thinks coding is something you learn at a community college. He hasn't heard about ATENA because he's never bothered to ask what I actually do." "His loss," Maya said firmly. "So what's the play? Cancel the VC meeting?" I shook my head. "An idea forming. No, we use it. But instead of seeking investment, we pitch partnerships. Get them to open doors to their network of financial institutions. We don't need their money, we need their connections." 6 months after being disinherited, I stood in our new office space in downtown Manhattan, watching our team of engineers work on ATENA's final testing phase. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered a perfect view of the financial district, the same institutions that would soon be revolutionized by our technology. "Emma," Maya called from her workstation, "you need to see this." I walked over, coffee in hand, to look at her screen. The latest simulation results were beyond even our most optimistic projections. Athena wasn't just predicting market movements, it was identifying market-moving events before they happened. "Is this accurate?" I asked, leaning closer to study the data. Maya nodded, her eyes bright with excitement. "Triple verified. The AI spotted patterns in social media, news articles, and trading behavior that predicted the Morgan Stanley merger announcement 3 days before it happened. If this had been real trading instead of a simulation, we would have made billions," I finished. "Have you shown this to the compliance team?" "That's the best part," she said, pulling up another screen. "Everything's completely legal. Athena isn't using insider information. It's just better at connecting publicly available data points than any human could ever be." My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. "Hey sis, haven't heard from you in months. Parents are worried. Dad says your phone number at the apartment is disconnected." I smiled slightly. Of course it was disconnected. We'd moved the entire operation to a $40 million office space 6 blocks from Wall Street, but my family still thought I was playing with computers in my tiny apartment. "I'm fine," I texted back. "Just busy with work." Another buzz, this time from our head of legal, David. "SEC meeting confirmed for next week. They're interested in the compliance protocols." That was an understatement. When word had gotten out that we were developing something revolutionary in the fintech space, the SEC had practically begged for a meeting. They wanted to understand our technology before it hit the market. Smart of them, really. "Ms. Chen." Our receptionist's voice came through the intercom. "There's a Mr. Thompson here to see you. He says he's from Thompson and Mitchell." My heart skipped a beat. Thompson and Mitchell, Jennifer's law firm. One of the largest corporate law firms in the city. "Send him in," I said, straightening my blazer. James Thompson himself walked through the door, senior partner and my sister's boss. He looked exactly like the kind of lawyer my father admired. Silver-haired, perfectly tailored suit, exuding old money confidence. "Ms. Chen," he said, extending his hand. Thank you for seeing me without an appointment. I hope to forgive the intrusion. But when we heard rumors about what you're developing here. You heard rumors? I asked, gesturing for him to sit. From whom? He smiled diplomatically. Let's just say certain financial institutions are very interested in your technology. They're our clients and they asked us to explore potential relationships. Does my sister know you're here? His smile faltered slightly. Jennifer? No, this meeting is strictly confidential. Though I must admit, I was surprised to learn you were her sister. She's never mentioned that she has a sister who plays with computers. I finished for him. I imagine she hasn't mentioned me much at all. Maya appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand. Emma, sorry to interrupt, but the Goldman Sachs team is here for their demo. Thompson's eyebrows shot up at the mention of Goldman Sachs. I could almost see him recalculating my worth in his head. Mr. Thompson, I said, standing, I apologize, but I have another meeting. If you'd like to discuss potential relationships, you can contact our legal team to schedule something. Of course, he said, rising quickly. But Ms. Chen, whatever Goldman is offering, we can match it. Thompson and Mitchell represents half the major financial institutions in the city. I walked into the door, feeling a strange satisfaction. It's not about the money, Mr. Thompson. It's about changing the game entirely. I'm sure you understand. After you left, Maya gave me a knowing look. You enjoyed that, didn't you? Maybe a little, I admitted. How long until he tells Jennifer about our little operation here? Given that your sister's firm represents billions in financial interests, I'd say about 5 minutes. Sure enough, my phone buzzed again. Emma, why didn't you tell me? Jim Thompson just came back from your office looking like he'd seen a ghost. What exactly are you working on? I put my phone away without responding. There would be time for family revelations later. Right now, we had a demonstration to prepare for. The Goldman Sachs team was already waiting in our conference room. 5 executives in expensive suits, trying not to look too eager. Their presence here was a coup. Getting Goldman as an early partner would open every door in the financial world. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, standing at the head of the table. What you're about to see will fundamentally change how the markets operate. But first, I need you all to sign these NDAs. The morning of our IPO, I stood in front of my mirror adjusting my suit. Chanel, not that my parents would recognize the difference. The Wall Street Journal sat on my desk, our company's impending public offering splashed across the front page. ATE and AI set to launch biggest tech IPO of the year. Expected valuation, $800 million. My phone had been buzzing nonstop for days. First Jennifer, then my mother. Finally, even my father had tried to reach out. I'd let their messages pile up unanswered. They'd all be at the ceremony today anyway. The invitations had gone out weeks ago. Ready for this? Maya asked, appearing in my office doorway. She traded her usual tech company casual wear for a sharp business suit. Born ready, I replied, picking up my presentation folder. How's ATE&A performing this morning? Like a dream. The latest analysis shows her predicting market movements with 99.7% accuracy. The trading floor is buzzing. Everyone knows this is going to change everything. We made our way to the stock exchange where crowds had already gathered. Financial reporters lined the entrance, cameras flashing as we approached. I caught snippets of their commentary. Youngest female CEO to take a company public. Revolutionary AI trading technology. Already has contracts with major financial institutions. Inside, the exchange was electric with anticipation. Our team had gathered near the podium, along with representatives from every major bank and financial institution in the city. And there, in the front row, sat my family. My father's face was a study in conflicting emotions, pride warring with regret, confusion battling with awe. My mother kept dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. And Jennifer just stared at me like she was seeing her sister for the first time. Emma, my father stepped forward as I approached the podium. We had no idea. No, I said calmly, you didn't, because you never asked. Before he could respond, the exchange president called me to the stage. It was time to start the ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, my voice carrying across the suddenly quiet trading floor. 3 years ago, I started coding ATE&I in a tiny apartment. People called it playing with computers. They said I was wasting my potential. They couldn't see that I was building the future. My eyes met my father's as I continued. Today, ATENA processes more financial data in a second than all of Wall Street could analyze in a month. She predicts market movements with near-perfect accuracy, all while operating within strict ethical and legal guidelines. But more importantly, she represents what's possible when you believe in your vision, even when no one else does. The ceremony proceeded according to tradition: speeches, handshakes, the ringing of the bell. But the real moment came when our stock price appeared on the big board. The room erupted in cheers as the numbers soared past our projected opening. By lunch, my personal stake in the company was worth over $300 million, more than 100 times the trust fund my father had signed away. After the ceremony, my family approached hesitantly. Jennifer spoke first. "Emma, I'm so sorry," she said, her lawyer's composure cracking. "All this time, when you tried to tell us about your work." "Save it," I said, but not unkindly. "You all saw what you wanted to see." My father cleared his throat. "Princess, about the trust fund." "Keep it," I interrupted. "Jennifer earned it, just like I earned this. Sometimes the best thing someone can do for you is believe you'll fail. It makes success that much sweeter." "But we're family," my mother protested. "We should have supported you." I looked around at my real family, Maya and our team, the people who believed in the vision when it was just lines of code in a tiny apartment. "You're right, we are family," I said. "Which is why you're all invited to dinner tonight. I've reserved the private room at Le Bernardin. I hear it's a good place to celebrate success." My father's face reddened at the reference to that dinner 6 months ago, but he managed a small smile. "We'd be honored." Later that evening, as my family marveled at our company's technology and success over expensive wine, I thought about the long road that had led here, the nights coding while they thought I was wasting time, the meetings they dismissed as playing with computers, the victory they tried to give to someone else. My phone buzzed, a message from Maya: "Stock closed at double our projected value. You're officially a billionaire." I smiled, watching my father try to explain to his country club friends how his disappointing daughter had built an empire right under his nose. Success, I'd learned, wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right. "Emma," Jennifer said, pulling me aside, "I need to tell you something. After Jim Thompson came back from your office that day, I looked up everything I could find about ATEGNA. I started buying stock in every company that showed interest in your technology. I believed in you, even if I didn't show it." I raised an eyebrow. "Did you make money?" She grinned. "Enough to pay back that trust fund 10 times over." "Good," I said, "because I'm going to need a lawyer I can trust for our next expansion phase. Someone who understands both technology and family." Her eyes widened. "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a chance to be part of something bigger than both of us. What do you say, sis? Ready to play with computers?" The next morning, as I walked into our office building, now officially the ATGNN Tower, I passed a young intern working on code in the lobby during her break. She reminded me of myself, back when everyone thought I was wasting time with computers. "Keep at it," I told her. "Sometimes the biggest success stories start in the smallest apartments." She looked up, recognition dawning in her eyes. "Ms. Chen, I read about how you built ATENA. My parents think I'm crazy for choosing programming over law school. But you have a vision," I finished for her. "Hold on to that. And remember, the people who underestimate you today will be reading about you tomorrow." As I rode the elevator to my office, I thought about legacy. Not the kind my father had tried to force on me, but the kind you build yourself, one line of code at a time. Athena wasn't just changing the financial world, she was proving that success doesn't always look like people expect it to. And sometimes, the best inheritance isn't the one you're given, it's the one you create for yourself.
I stood in the dining room of Rosemary's, our family's flagship restaurant, staring at the wall of framed photos that chronicled our history. 25 years of memories captured in fading prints. My grandfather opening the first location in 1980, my parents taking over in 1995, and endless shots of my sister Olivia's beaming face as she won cooking competitions and earned glowing press reviews. My face appeared exactly once, age 12, half hidden behind Olivia in a staff Christmas photo. There you are, Madison. My father's voice made me turn. He stood in the doorway, his chest whites pristine despite the dinner rush that had just ended. Your mother and I need to talk to you. Join us in the office? I nodded, already knowing what this conversation would be about. At 32, Olivia was ready to take over the family business. Our chain of upscale Italian restaurants now worth over $2 million. And I, at 28, was about to be officially pushed aside. The office still smelled exactly the same. Garlic and herbs from the kitchen mingled with the leather of my father's ancient desk chair. Mom sat perched on the edge of the desk, while Olivia lounged in one of the visitor chairs, scrutinizing her perfect manicure. Have a seat, honey. Mom gestured to the remaining chair. Her smile was gentle, but didn't quite reach her eyes. I sat, smoothing my simple black dress, the one I wore for my job managing the books at Rosemary's. Numbers were the only thing my parents trusted me with, and even then, Olivia had final approval on everything. Madison, Dad began, settling into his chair. You know we've been discussing succession planning for the business. Your sister has proven herself more than capable of taking Rosemary's to the next level. Olivia preened. Of course she had. They'd handed her every opportunity while relegating me to background roles. We've decided it's time, Mom continued. Olivia will assume full ownership and control of all restaurant operations, effective next month. I waited for the rest. Surely there would be some role for me, some acknowledgement of my years of quiet contribution. The silence stretched. And me? I finally asked. Dad shifted uncomfortably. Well, sweetheart, we think it's best if you explore other opportunities. Your sister has a very specific vision for the future of Rosemary's. What your father means, Olivia cut in, her voice dripping with fake sympathy, is that we'll be bringing in professional financial staff. Let's be honest, Madison, you're not really cut out for the restaurant business. You've never had the passion for it like I do. I gripped the arms of my chair, memories flooding back. 12-year-old me, begging to help in the kitchen only to be told I'd get in the way. 16-year-old me, suggesting menu improvements that were dismissed without consideration. 20-year-old me, graduating top of my class in business school while Olivia got all the praise for winning a local cooking contest. We'll give you an excellent severance package, Mom added quickly. 3 months' salary. That should give you time to find something more suitable. I see. I stood up slowly, my mind already racing ahead. And I assume you'll want me out by the end of the week. That would be best, Olivia smiled. The new financial team starts Monday. I nodded curtly and walked out, ignoring my mother's call of Madison, wait. Behind me, I heard Olivia's dismissive laugh. Oh, let her go, Mom. She'll get over it. But I wouldn't get over it. Not this time. That night, I sat in my small apartment, surrounded by spreadsheets and business plans I'd been quietly working on for years. Every time they'd dismissed my ideas, I'd refined them. Every time they'd pushed me aside, I'd strengthened my resolve. They thought I lacked passion. They had no idea. I pulled up the lease agreement on my laptop, the one I'd signed last week for the vacant storefront directly next door to Rosemary's. The landlord had been surprised when I offered above market rate, but location was everything. Opening my meticulously organized files, I reviewed my concept again. While Rosemary's catered to the dinner crowd with white tablecloths and $40 pasta dishes, I saw an untapped market. Young professionals wanting quality coffee, fresh pastries, and quick but sophisticated lunch options. A modern cafe with Italian influences but none of the stuffiness. I had spent years studying customer patterns, noting complaints, and identifying gaps in the local restaurant scene. While Olivia focused on impressing food critics, I'd watched what actually brought in steady profits. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Safia. Just heard what happened. You okay? I smiled grimly and replied, better than okay. Remember that business plan I showed you? It's time. Sophia had been the only person who believed in me from the start. As the head pastry chef at an exclusive hotel downtown, she'd even offered to consult on my menu development. The next morning, I walked into Rosemary's for what would be my last day. The morning prep crew barely looked up as I passed through the kitchen. I'd always been practically invisible here anyway. In my small office, I methodically gathered my personal items while downloading copies of all the financial records I'd legally created. Clearing out already, Olivia appeared in the doorway, a smug smile playing on her lips. I thought you'd at least finish the week. I carefully placed my succulents in a box. No point dragging it out. I'm sure your new team is eager to start. She walked in, running a finger along my desk. You know, I did try to convince Mom and Dad to keep you on in some capacity. Maybe as a hostess. But they agreed you need to find your own path. I bit back a laugh. Classic Olivia, always making sure to appear generous while twisting the knife. How thoughtful of you. Well, family is family. She paused. Though I hope you understand you won't be getting any friends and family discounts at the restaurants. It wouldn't be fair to other customers. Don't worry, I said, picking up my box. I won't be eating here anymore. Her smile faltered slightly at my calm tone. She'd expected tears, pleading, anything but this quiet confidence. Good luck with whatever you end up doing, she called after me as I walked out. Maybe accounting? You were always good with numbers. If she noticed me smiling as I left, she probably assumed I was holding back tears. She had no idea. The next few months passed in a blur of activity. While Olivia hogged the local restaurant media spotlight with her bold new vision for Rosemary's, I quietly assembled my team. Safia agreed to oversee our pastry program while maintaining her hotel job. Her reputation alone would draw attention. I hired Maria, a brilliant young barista who'd won several regional competitions but felt stifled by corporate coffee chains. Jack, a former line cook from Rosemary's who'd quit after Olivia took over, signed on to run our savory kitchen. He brought with him several other staff who'd grown tired of my sister's management style. The construction crew worked day and night transforming the empty storefront. Floor-to-ceiling windows would flood the space with natural light. The coffee bar, crafted from reclaimed wood and Italian marble, would be a showpiece. Every detail was carefully chosen to create an atmosphere that was both welcoming and sophisticated. I threw myself into every aspect of the business. While managing construction, I also focused on brand development, menu testing, and staff training. My savings account dwindled, but my small business loan would cover the remaining startup costs. I had one shot at this, and I wasn't going to waste it. The day we installed the sign was when reality truly hit home. Mattina, meaning morning in Italian, in elegant gold letters against deep blue. Through the construction barriers, I could see Olivia watching from Rosemary's window, her expression unreadable. Let her watch. Let them all watch. 2 weeks before our planned opening, I was reviewing coffee bean orders when Jack burst into my office, his face pale. Madison, you need to see this. He handed me his phone, open to the local restaurant news website. The headline made my blood run cold. Rosemary's ANNOUNCE NEUCAFE Seoul CEPT. Bureau Hingi and Beloved Italian flavors to breakfast and lunchy. My hands shook as I read the article. Olivia was launching a cafe menu at all Rosemary's locations. Breakfast pastries, gourmet sandwiches, specialty coffee drinks, nearly identical to what we planned. And they were starting with the flagship location, next door. They must have gotten wind of our concept. Someone had talked, or they'd seen our permit applications, and now they were trying to crush us before we could even open. I looked up to find my entire team watching me anxiously. They'd all taken huge risks to join this venture. Some had quit stable jobs. They believed in my vision, and I couldn't let them down. Call everyone in, I said, standing up. Emergency meeting in 20 minutes. As my staff filed into our unfinished dining room, I took a deep breath. This wasn't over. In fact, it was just beginning. My family had underestimated me my entire life, but they'd never seen what I was truly capable of. Time to show them. The emergency team meeting lasted until midnight. Empty coffee cups and discarded ideas littered our makeshift conference table, a piece of plywood balanced on sawhorses. But by the time we finished, we had a plan. They think they can beat us at our own game. I stood at the head of the table, surveying my tired but determined staff. Let them try. We're not just opening a cafe. We're creating something entirely new. Over the next week, we completely revamped our concept. While Rosemary's would offer watered-down versions of standard cafe fare, we would innovate. Our pastry chef, Sophia, developed hybrid creations that combined Italian and Asian flavors: matcha tiramisu, yuzu cannoli, black sesame bomboloni. Each item was photographed for our social media campaign, generating buzz before we even opened. Maria, our head barista, designed a coffee program that went beyond typical espresso drinks. She sourced rare beans from small Italian farms and created signature drinks that told a story. The Vesuvius, a volcanic-looking layered espresso drink with chocolate ash, became our Instagram star. But our biggest innovation came from an unexpected source. Jack, our kitchen manager, had been experimenting with rapid cooking techniques that could deliver restaurant-quality meals in cafe timing. "Look at this," he demonstrated, pulling a perfectly cooked pasta dish from a specialized heating unit. 3 minutes from order to plate, and the quality matches any full-service restaurant. We installed a line of these units, allowing us to offer hot, fresh meals in record time. Perfect for business lunches when people couldn't spend an hour at Rosemary's. The morning of our opening, I arrived at 4 a.m. to find a line already forming. Our social media campaign had worked better than expected. The first 100 customers would receive limited edition Matina coffee tumblers, and people wanted them. Through our windows, I could see lights on at Rosemary's. Olivia was there, watching. They'd rushed to launch their cafe menu 2 days earlier, but the reviews had been lukewarm. Traditional pastries and basic coffee drinks couldn't compete with what we were about to unveil. At precisely 6 a.m., I unlocked our doors. The space was stunning, modern yet warm, with that reclaimed wood and marble bar as our centerpiece. The aroma of freshly baked pastries and specialty coffee filled the air. "Welcome to Matina." I greeted the first customers, a group of young professionals headed to nearby offices. Their eyes widened as they took in the display case filled with Sophia's creations. "Are those yuzu cannoli?" One woman pressed her face against the glass. "I saw these on Instagram." By 7 a.m., we had a constant line of 30 people. By noon, we'd sold out of most pastries and had to rush additional batches. Our quick service pasta dishes were a huge hit with the lunch crowd, many of whom had walked out of Rosemary's when told about their 45-minute wait time. I was expediting orders when I saw them, my parents and Olivia, walking through our doors. They tried to look casual, but I could see them scrutinizing everything: the innovative menu, the efficient service, the full tables, the constant line. Olivia picked up a menu, her perfectly manicured fingernails gripping the recycled paper. Fast casual Italian fusion. She sniffed. Hardly authentic. I stepped out from behind the counter, radiating calm confidence. Can I help you find something? The black sesame bomboloni are our best seller this morning. Madison, my mother started, then faltered as she looked around the busy cafe. This wasn't the failing business they'd expected to find. My father cleared his throat. Interesting concept you have here, though I'm not sure it fits with the neighborhood's character. I gestured to our packed dining room. The neighborhood seems to disagree. Now, if you'll excuse me, we have customers waiting. They left without ordering, but I knew this wasn't over. Olivia's face had that look, the one she got when plotting something. Sure enough, 2 days later, Rosemary's announced they were slashing their breakfast and lunch prices by 30%. They're trying to undercut us, Jack worried, showing me their new menu. We can't match those prices and stay profitable. We don't need to, I assured him. Quality speaks for itself. I was right. Despite Rosemary's price cuts, our business kept growing. Word spread about our unique offerings and quick service. Food bloggers raved about our fusion pastries. Local offices started ordering catering. We had lines out the door every morning. Then came the call that changed everything. Ms. Bennett. The voice was crisp, professional. This is Marcus Chin from Venture Capital Partners. We've been hearing interesting things about Matina. Would you be open to discussing expansion opportunities? I sat down, my hands shaking slightly. This was it, the chance to grow beyond what my family thought possible. But first, I had to handle a more immediate crisis. Sophia burst into my office, her chef's coat dusted with flour. Madison, we have a problem. Someone's been trying to poach our staff, offering double salary to work at Rosemary's new cafe division. I smiled grimly. Of course, Olivia would try this tactic. Call a staff meeting. Time to let everyone in on phase 2 of our plan. The next morning, I walked into the VC meeting with a detailed expansion proposal, not just for 1 or 2 new locations, but for a complete reimagining of the quick service dining industry. Our goal isn't to compete with traditional restaurants, I explained, pointing to my projections. We're creating a new category entirely. High-end quality with fast casual efficiency. And we can replicate this model anywhere. Marcus leaned forward, intrigued. And your current location's numbers support this? I handed him our first quarter financials. His eyebrows rose as he reviewed them. Very impressive. But I have to ask, what about competition? Particularly from established local restaurants. He was diplomatic, but I knew he meant Rosemary's. Competition drives innovation, I said confidently. We've already proven we can succeed against established players. Now we're ready to expand that success. 2 weeks later, I signed the investment deal. $10 million in first-round funding with an aggressive expansion plan. We would open 5 new locations in the next year, each with our signature blend of quality, speed, and innovation. The news hit the local restaurant scene like a bombshell. Olivia's attempts to copy our concept suddenly looked small and derivative. Everyone was talking about the future of dining, and Matina was leading the conversation. Walking into work the morning after the announcement, I found an envelope on my desk. Inside was a note in my mother's handwriting. "Perhaps we should talk, Mom." I tucked the note away without responding. They'd had years to talk, years to see my potential. Now they could watch what happened next. The first new Matina location opened 4 months later in the heart of the financial district. The line on opening day stretched for 3 blocks. 2 months after that, we launched in the trendy arts district, adding evening hours and a wine program. Each new location brought innovations. We introduced automated ordering systems that remembered customer preferences. Our kitchens became models of efficiency, delivering complex dishes in minutes. The press started calling us the future of Italian dining. Rosemary's, meanwhile, struggled to keep up. Their attempts to modernize felt forced and confused their traditional customer base. I heard through industry gossip that their profits were dropping. Then came the headline that shook the local restaurant world. Rosemary closes 2 locations. Traditional restaurant chain faces modern dining challenges. Seeing that article, I felt no joy. This hadn't been about destroying my family's business. It was about building something true to my own vision, something that would make a real difference in the industry. That evening, as I was reviewing plans for our 6th location, my office phone rang. The caller ID showed Olivia Bennett. I stared at the phone for a long moment, thinking about everything that had led to this point. Then calmly, I picked up the receiver. "Madison?" Olivia's voice wavered, lacking its usual confidence. "We need to talk." I leaned back in my chair, looking out at the city lights. In the reflection of my office window, I could see the gleaming signs of 3 Matina locations. "I'm listening." "Can we meet? In person?" She paused. "Please, it's important." An hour later, I sat across from Olivia at a neutral location, an upscale bar downtown. She looked different, somehow smaller. The perfectly curated appearance remained, but stress had left its mark. "We're losing everything," she said without preamble, staring into her untouched wine. "Rosemary's is failing. 2 locations closed, and the others are barely breaking even. The banks are threatening to call our loans." I took a measured sip of my drink. "I'm aware of your situation." "Of course you are." She laughed bitterly. "You probably knew before we did. You always were better with numbers." "What do you want, Olivia?" She straightened, composing herself. "We want to propose a merger. Rosemary's and Matina. Combined resources, shared expertise." We cold. "No." The word came out sharp and final. "You haven't even heard the terms." "I don't need to." I set my glass down carefully. "Matina is valued at $50 million, Olivia. We're opening our 15th location next month, with 30 more planned for next year. We don't need Rosemary's resources or expertise. We're still family," she whispered. "Are we? When was the last time you treated me like family?" She flinched. "I know we make mistakes." "Mistakes?" I cut in. "You systematically pushed me aside for years. You took every opportunity to belittle me, to remind me I wasn't good enough. When you forced me out, you didn't even have the decency to be honest about it. You wrapped it in fake concern and condescension." "I was wrong," she said quietly. "We all were. Watching what you've built, it's extraordinary, Madison. You've revolutionized the entire industry while we were clinging to outdated traditions." I studied her face, searching for the manipulation I'd grown so accustomed to seeing. But for once, my sister seemed genuine. "Here's what I'll offer," I said finally. not a merger. Matina remains independent, but I'll buy the original Rosemary's location, the one grandfather built. I'll keep the name and some signature dishes, but modernize the concept. A single high-end dinner venue to complement our fast casual empire. And the other locations? Close them. They're not viable anymore. Use the sale proceeds to pay off your debts. After that, if you're interested, we might discuss a position at Matina. Entry level. No special treatment. You'd have to earn any advancement. Her eyes widened. You'd really give me a chance? After everything? Everyone deserves a chance to prove themselves. I had to build mine from nothing. You'll at least have a foundation. 2 days later, I sat in my parents' living room, reviewing the sales contract for Rosemary's. My father kept shaking his head, staring at the purchase price. All these years, he murmured, we never saw. You saw what you wanted to see, I replied, initialing another page. You decided early on that Olivia was the successful one, the one with potential. You never bothered to look deeper. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Can you ever forgive us? I paused, considering the question. I'm not angry anymore. Building Matina taught me something important. Success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. The acquisition of Rosemary's flagship location made headlines in the restaurant industry. But the bigger story came 3 months later, when Matina announced our nationwide expansion plan. 100 locations across the country, plus our first international ventures in London and Tokyo. The day we opened the reimagined Rosemary's, I stood in that same dining room where the family photos hung. The wall had been redesigned, now telling a different story. Photos of grandfather still held pride of place, but alongside them were images of Matina's journey. My journey. Olivia, now 6 months into her role managing quality control for our pastry program, joined me. I heard Tokyo's opening beat all projections, she said, and London's already got a waiting list for franchises. I nodded. The Dubai team flies in next week to discuss Middle East expansion. She shook her head in amazement. A global empire built from a tiny cafe next door. You know what the irony is? If we hadn't tried to copy your concept that first day, if we just let you do your thing, Rosemary's might have survived. Maybe, but then I might not have pushed so hard to innovate. Sometimes our biggest challenges lead to our greatest successes. Later that night, after the last customers had left and the staff had gone home, I sat alone in my office reviewing expansion plans. On my desk sat a small plaque, given to me that morning by my team. It read, Madison Bennett, founder and CEO, Matina International, from a single door to a worldwide welcome. I picked up the plaque, running my fingers over the engraved words. Success wasn't just about the money, the locations, or even proving my family wrong. It was about staying true to your vision, even when no one else could see it. My phone buzzed. Photos from the Tokyo location's soft opening. The lines stretched for blocks, just like that first morning next door to Rosemary's. But now, the crowds weren't just waiting for coffee and pastries. They were waiting to be part of something revolutionary. I opened my laptop to review the latest innovation proposals from our R&D team. We were exploring AI-driven ordering systems, sustainable sourcing initiatives, and revolutionary kitchen automation. The $50 million empire was just the beginning. The sun was rising by the time I finally left the office. I passed the original Matina location, now a historical landmark in our company's story. The sign still glowed warmly in the early morning light, welcoming another day of possibilities. My family had given me nothing, believing I'd amount to nothing. But they taught me the most valuable lesson of all. The only limits that matter are the ones you accept for yourself. Standing there in the growing light, I smiled. Time to start another day of proving just how limitless those possibilities could be.